Today, we're going to dive deep into the subtle but really powerful psychological shifts that can happen to someone after narcissistic abuse. And let's be clear right up front. These aren't character flaws. They're symptoms of a system that's been thrown completely off balance. So let's get right into it. Just imagine for a second that you have an inner compass. You know, that thing that guides your reactions, your judgments, your gut feelings. Now, what happens when that compass just breaks, when it starts spinning wildly and you can't trust your own sense of direction anymore? That's really the core of what we're talking about today. And that leads us straight to our first major point, this fundamental loss of balance. We're not talking about just being a little moody here. We're talking about a complete lurch from one extreme all the way to the other. See, when that inner compass goes haywire, the healthy middle ground just disappears. It's gone. So instead of having measured, thoughtful responses, a person's reactions get pushed to the absolute edges of the spectrum. You lose that centered, nuanced way of just being in the world. And this is exactly what it looks like in practice. A person might find themselves swinging from being excessively reactive, maybe over-explaining everything or getting super defensive, all the way over to being excessively passive, where they just completely shut down. There's no in-between, it's all or nothing. Okay, so what happens next? Well, this internal imbalance starts to warp how a person sees the world around them. And specifically, it really messes with how they judge the value and intentions of other people. This imbalance creates a really profound distortion in perception. It's like you can't see people clearly anymore. You start putting unworthy people up on a pedestal, giving them power they haven't earned, and at the same time, your own self-worth gets pushed further and further down. There's this incredible metaphor that just perfectly captures this. It's like seeing the fly as a bee and the monkey as a lion. You mistake a minor pest for something productive and valuable, and you see a chaotic, disruptive figure as some kind of powerful, respectable leader. It's a complete misread of the situation. And the fallout from this is, well, it's direct and it's damaging. It's a simple chain of events, really. When you lift up the wrong people, you're just handing them power they don't deserve. And what's the inevitable result? Your own value, your own standing, it gets smaller and smaller. So you might be wondering, how does this all show up in the real practical world? Well, one of the biggest ways is through money. And this isn't about being bad with money, it's a symptom. It shows how a lack of that internal balance can create some serious real-world risks. You start to see these very specific patterns emerge. There's this detachment from what money is actually worth, so it becomes easy to just give it away, often to people who absolutely do not deserve it. And here's the paradox. A lot of times, the victim has a sharp mind that brings money, which ironically just makes them a bigger target. They end up accidentally encouraging the very people who are looking to exploit them. Yeah, this whole set of behaviors basically sends up a giant flare for manipulators. A narcissist sees someone who can generate resources but doesn't protect them, and they see a golden opportunity. And they don't take with gratitude. Oh no, they take with a sense of total entitlement. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? I do not fear poverty for you, but I fear for you bad management. The real danger isn't a lack of resources. It's having those resources without the ability to manage and protect them. That's a recipe for disaster. And all of this connects directly to our next point, the struggle to simply defend yourself. Because think about it, if you can't manage your finances, it's often a sign that you're struggling to manage your personal space too. We're talking about weak, easily breakable boundaries. And this is where you get this incredibly toxic dynamic. You have one person who avoids conflict at all costs, who just wants it to be over as fast as possible. And then you have the other person who thrives on it. They actively look for problems, and if they can't find any, they'll just create them out of thin air. It's a perfect storm. So you have to ask, why not just set a boundary? Well, often it comes down to this trap, this rationalization. The belief that you're somehow too mature or above setting limits on someone who is clearly out of line. But that's not maturity. It's a grave, grave mistake. And that mistake is exactly what leads to what we call violable boundaries. It's a state where your lines are constantly being crossed because, well, there are no consequences when they are. For example, think of someone who repeatedly makes those little passive-aggressive jokes at your expense. If you just laugh it off every time to avoid a fight, you're not enforcing a boundary. You're actually signaling that the boundary doesn't even exist. Okay, so we've looked at all these pieces, right? The loss of balance, the distorted perception, the financial stuff, the weak boundaries. So where do we go from here? Well, this last part is all about the path back to center. It's about the journey to restore that equilibrium you've lost. And here's the thing that ties it all together. Misjudging people, financial vulnerability, weak boundaries, these are not separate individual flaws. They're all symptoms. Every single one of them points back to one single core issue: a deep loss of psychological balance. That broken compass affects absolutely everything. But, and this is so important, here's the most crucial takeaway. While a narcissist almost never changes, the story for the victim is completely different. That balance, it can be restored. The capacity to heal is absolutely there. And that leaves us with one final thought. Just understanding these patterns, seeing them not as who you are, but as symptoms of an unbalanced system, that awareness is the essential first step. So the real question becomes, now that you're aware, what will your first step be?